about it right now, everything's okay. No matter where you find yourself, no matter what kind of stuff is going on in your life.
Whew. Hello everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're watching this. Today we are going to be talking about all the books that I read in the past month. I want to say this is all the books that I read in February, but to be honest, two of the books that we're going to talk about today, I actually finished in like the first week of March, but I'm going to include them here anyway because why not immediately talk about them? Actually, I literally just finished The Night Circus. We can, I have it fresh in my mind. We can talk about it immediately. That's great. New setup. I'm sitting on the bed. I went a little ham with the eyeliner today. It's okay. It's okay. I don't need to go outside with this. I have my trusty reading journal here with me. Basically what it comes down to is that I spent most of the month reading The Night Circus, which was like 600 pages, and it just took me the entire month to get through it. But we'll talk, I finished this one the last, so we'll also talk about this one at the end of the video. You're gonna have to wait for my opinions. I'm really liking how my reading journal is starting to look. Oh, these are spoilers. Spoilers for the video. Anyway, the first book that I read this month, I want to be brief about because I plan on making, actually I already made like a full reading vlog. I just still have to edit it, so that'll come soon. But I reread Shadow and Bone. This is like a classic YA fantasy that's gonna be turned into a Netflix show. And if you've been hanging around my channel for the past month, you know that I'm extremely excited for the Shadow and Bone Netflix TV show. I'm a huge fan of the Six of Crows duology, and I also really liked the Grisha trilogy, but I really wanted to reread Shadow and Bone before the Netflix show comes out because it has been like 6 years since I read it. I've already reread it once, so this is the third time of me reading this book. Just wanted to know if I were to read this, not a teenager anymore, I'm 23 years old right now, if I would still enjoy it. So I made an entire reading vlog with like my in-depth thoughts and like final verdict and like analysis of the story and really going into it, so I want to be a little short here. But generally speaking, I really enjoyed my reread of this book. It's kind of hard to discern whether, I enjoyed it because it's actually good or just because there's so much nostalgia in there for me. But I did have a lot of criticisms, and the main one that I'll mention here as well is that it's just like very typical early YA where the main character is very much not like other girls. There's a lot of focus on appearances, given the fact that Leigh Bardugo went on to write Six of Crows and then Ninth House. You can really see that she really has grown as a writer, and this was just her debut novel where the characters and the plot and everything just could have been developed a lot more. But I still really enjoyed it. It's just like your classic chosen one light versus dark story that, I'm not gonna lie, I will always really enjoy. I've gotten a lot of questions from people asking me if they should read this book before the Netflix show comes out, and I would say you can give it a try. It's only 300 pages, so you could get through it really fast. But if you're very used to reading YA and you've read a lot of YA, just not this one, then this one is probably gonna read like a very cliche YA. It's not gonna give you anything new, but that's just because it was like one of the first typical YA fantasies, and the genre has evolved so much since then that it's probably going to feel a little bit cliche. But if you're not very familiar with YA fantasy yet and you just want to read it because you're excited for the show, I would give it a try. It gives you a nice insight in, I guess, like the beginnings of YA fantasy. Moving on, I have a non-fiction book that if you watch my reading vlogs, you've seen me read for like 2 months now, I think. Where did I leave it? And that is Hope in the Dark by Rebecca Solnit. This is a very short non-fiction book about hope, but it's just a summation of short stories, short examples of history that you could kind of get some hope from, like little positive things that have happened, just some good things that humanity has done, just some nice things that humans have done to each other. Overall, I really don't know what to think of this. I picked up this book because, you know, I wanted to read a book that would be, you know, a little positive, a little bit, you know, not turning me into like a doomer. First of all, this book's kind of outdated because this was written in 2005. They did add a new foreword that was written in 2016, but even then you can tell this book is just a little old and therefore just not very up to date. And it just, you know, it doesn't really give a lot of hope when you read a book that's like trying to tell you about hopeful things that might possibly happen in the near future when you are living in that near future, knowing that those things did not happen. I also felt like many of the chapters were just a little bit empty. I definitely learned a few interesting things and things that I will remember, just really not as much as I would expect. Here, let me share with you the things that I wrote down. This one I like the most, I think, is to always remember that there are a lot of things that could have gone wrong that didn't go wrong, but you probably never hear about this because obviously if you learn about history you're not gonna learn about all the things that didn't happen. But this book mentions like a few different stories of things that could have gone wrong but didn't because of like activist groups, etc., that prevented these things, and we can continue to do that in the future. Let me just share two of my favorite quotes that I wrote down. I'm holding it upside down. Two of my favorite quotes that I wrote down from this book. The first one is about despair. I've seen enough change in my lifetime to know that despair is not only self-defeating, it is unrealistic. And the other one is about striving for perfection. We'll never be perfect, and we'll never have a perfect life, and we'll never live in a perfect society, but that's actually okay, and that shouldn't make you feel defeated. Utopia is on the horizon. When I walk 2 steps, it takes 2 steps back. I walk 10 steps, and it is 10 steps further away. What is utopia for? It is for this, for walking. And that's all I want to share about this book. I think I ended up giving it 3 stars. If this interests you, I do think it's worth checking out. And there's an ambulance going off. Or is that police? Then the next book that I read is one that I actually listened to on audiobook, so I don't have a physical copy or anything, but that is Wundersmith by Jessica Townsend. This is the second book in the Nevermore series that I read for the Wonderling Along that is organized by Sabine and Olivia. This is a middle grade series about, I don't even explain what this is about. It's like the second book has already progressed so much story-wise from the first book that if I try to explain what the book is about without spoiling anything, I feel like I'm not properly explaining what the book is about. You know what I mean? But yeah, the first book is about this girl, Morgan Crow, who is told that she will die on her 10th birthday, I think. But then when her 10th birthday rolls around, she actually gets an invitation to the Wondrous Society. And if she wants to get into the Wondrous Society, she has to go through these trials. It's just a fantastically wonderful, fun, adventurous middle grade series that I highly, 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 highly recommend. I thought the second book was just as fun as the first book. Also, there's a magical academy in the second book, which I love. I love me some good magical academies. And it also has another thing that's like one of my favorite trope/content things in books, and that is when the main character and the villain have some kind of like interesting, my neighbor's walking down. I hope he doesn't see me film. I'm just a girl sitting on her window with a camera that just happens to stand there on the windowsill. Nothing to see here. Yeah, this book has one of my favorite like trope/content things. It has a really fun dynamic between the villain and the main character, where the villain and the main character are more alike than anyone else. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you have these books where there's the villain and the main character are like intrinsically linked. You know, the classic dynamic where the villain is like, oh, you're more like me than you would know. And the main character's like, no, I'm nothing like you. How dare you say that? But then they are pretty alike, actually. And I really like that. I don't know why I love that trope so much, but it makes me very happy. Also, another thing that's really great about the second book is that there are a lot more themes in this one. It explores themes like how the history you get taught in school might not be correct, that like history could be told in a wrong way. If you want to know more like spoilery thoughts, there is a live show actually for this book where I was in for the Wonderling Along. It's on Olivia's channel. I'll link it down below, and there we also like really go into spoilery bits, and we also discuss the themes and stuff. It was very interesting, and it was really fun to talk about this book. Okay, and then the last book that I read this month is The Night Circus. So the thing about The Night Circus is that you can kind of bet on it that if a booktuber has read this book, there's like an 80% chance that it's also one of their favorite books of all time. I've heard nothing but fantastic things about The Night Circus, and that I think kind of kept me from picking it up. And I also noticed that I actually didn't really know what the book was about when I picked it up. I knew it was about the Night Circus, but then what? So I'm gonna try to explain to you what this book is about so you get a little bit more of a better view. This is a fantasy story that takes place in our world, and there is this magical circus, but many of the people in the circus have actual magic, and they can do actual magical things, which makes the circus so dreamlike, so magic-like. We follow a bunch of different characters around the circus who all have their own interesting stories, but at the heart of it you follow a boy and a girl, and like they grow up throughout the story, who are kind of brought up as these contestants for a magical contest where they are pit against each other to compete, but they don't know what they're competing for. They don't really know what the contest is. They just know that they are in a contest and that they are each other's opponents. They're trying to figure it out. All these stories are slowly interweaving. We kind of jump around in time a lot, and most of all, it's just super magical. Like, you can see that at the core of this book is to mesmerize the reader with all these beautiful descriptions of things that are happening in the circus. It really feels like you are dreaming, like you are there, like the feeling that you get when you go to, well, a real circus or like a theater show or like a beautiful museum. That's the feeling that you get when reading this book. There's actually a passage in the book that I feel kind of describes what was possibly Erin Morgenstern's goal when writing this book, and it goes like this. I think of myself not as a writer so much as someone who provides a gateway, a tangential route for readers to reach the circus, to visit the circus again, if only in their minds, when they are unable to attend it physically. And that's exactly what this book is. And there's also a beautiful love story at the heart of it. Like, it's not, I don't know how to describe it without making it sound like this is actually a romance book, because it's not really about the romance. You know, sometimes there's a difference between romance and a love story. I can't really explain it, but this book is a love story, but not a romance book. I have a few criticisms, okay? We'll get into that. First of all, when I finished this, I was left with a lot of questions. A lot of things are unanswered, and I'm kind of wondering if maybe that was the point. You have to understand that this is a book with a super soft magic system. So magic there are pretty much no rules to this magic system. Pretty much anything can happen. So be prepared to have things happen that you don't understand, and also be left with a lot of questions at the end. Same thing with, like, there's a plot twist in this book that I saw coming from miles away, to the point that I was again wondering, maybe this wasn't supposed to be surprising and you were just supposed as a reader to just wait for the characters to figure it out. I don't really know what the author's intention was, but I do know that me figuring it out, or me still having questions at the end, didn't really take away from the reading experience. And it also seems to kind of fit with the theme that I found in this book, is that not everything can be figured out. Like, even if you have magic, you can't do everything, you can't predict every part of the future, etc. A lot of things in life are just up to chance and just being in the right place in the right time. That seems to be kind of the general message that I got from this book. So that does kind of fit in with this idea of, yeah, maybe you are gonna be left with a lot of questions. Some things you'll just never know. So yeah, if you're the kind of fantasy reader who really likes to have like a logical explanation behind everything and every magical thing that's happening, this book is not for you. But if you want to just be mesmerized, and if you want to just feel like pure, the purest form, concentrated escapism, I highly recommend. This was wonderful. I had a great time. You know, the thing is, sometimes you read a story that is so well crafted that you don't really realize that you're reading a book. I don't really know how to explain what reading this book feels like. You just gotta experience it for yourself. Okay, I feel like I blabbered on for way too long. And now the question is, which book am I gonna read next? Which books am I gonna read in March? Oh, I really want to read Jane Eyre. This book is also like 600 pages. Maybe not the best decision. Also, I thought maybe I will finally read Neverwhere, because I realized that the audiobook for this is on Storytel, which is the audiobook app that I use. Oh, there's still a bookmark in here. Apparently I read about, wow, oh my gosh. I read until this far and then I just stopped. So I was thinking about just listening to the audiobook up until the moment that I haven't read yet, and then I can start reading the rest from the book. So maybe I'll do that. Or maybe I'll just buy some new books. I haven't bought a new book in 3 months, so I think I can allow myself to buy a new book maybe. Anyway, my bed is a mess right now. I'm gonna pack this up and I'm gonna end this wrap up here. If you want more updates on what I'm reading and just what I'm doing in my life, you can follow me on social media. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you soon in another one. Goodbye.